This episode of the Nerdball Podcast is sponsored by Jake Paluski at Real JP Multimedia. He does the music for this podcast. He has produced this podcast. If you need anything audio-visual done, he is the man to see at realjp.com, REELJP.com. Let's start the show.
Hey guys, it's Andrew Massie, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Andrew Massie, back on what he started.
Back from the dead.
It was a long time ago when it was probably like 2 years ago when we were podcast. And
yeah,
because I remember, I just wrote a post about it because I reached 10,000 downloads, but our podcast started with us having crazy lunchroom conversations. And neither of us work at that place anymore.
Lorenzo, I lost all audio for you.
Oh, no.
We made it 30 seconds.
Technology. Oh, look at that. You're like a telemarketer. Hello?
I do look like a telemarketer. You know what, man? Wires don't fail.
Yeah, you're right. That's why mine's plugged in too.
Yeah. Technology, dude. It's a curse.
That's all right. Anyway, I was saying we started this podcast a while ago with lunchroom conversations, and now we both don't work at that place anymore.
Neither of us eat lunch anymore, so we don't have conversations during that time period.
No, can I tell you though, just based because I would listen to some of our old podcasts every once in a while, just like listen to bits and pieces of it, and it was fun, man. I had so much fun doing it.
Yeah, I still talk to my wife about it all the time. That it bums me out that when we started, we had all these great conversations and we wanted to do a podcast.
Yeah, and
then we were like, sweet, we're doing it. And then I'm like, I'm gonna go get a job 45 minutes away from where you live. And I'm going to travel all the time. And then you went on to do much bigger and better things than what we were up to at the time. And a lot's changed in 2 years. And it sucks because it was so much fun.
Yeah. And the good thing is we can do this whenever there's time, come on and be on the podcast. And I never like to bother people too. Like, I'd say, hey, you should come on the podcast. And like, well, things are going on. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to bother, I don't want to bother you about it. But you're able to come on now. And I'm glad, man. I'm glad to see you. I haven't even seen you in a long time.
I know it's been over a year, I think, since we've actually seen each other. The good thing now is that things like Zoom exist, because 2 years ago, cameras weren't, they just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it was physically impossible to communicate through any medium other than in person up until recently. So I'm happy that technology's gotten to a point to where our podcasting is.
You did say, how I take this podcast and bigger and better things, which I appreciate, but there's no way the podcast would still be going if we wouldn't have started it, because I wouldn't have started it by myself. I would have been afraid. I would have well, what am I going to talk about? Who am I going to talk to? And it made it easy because I was talking to a friend, and we basically just transitioned to whatever we were talking about in the lunchroom to, now we're going to have microphones. So I appreciate you wanting to do it because it helped me. And no matter wherever this podcast goes, I always thank you for helping me set it up.
Well, I can only take credit for 9 of the 10,000 downloads. So, just send me my commission check and you're welcome.
All right. So the first thing I have people do is tell me something you've been nerding out about. Something, if it's something you're recently into, something you've been into a long time. I know we've talked several, our podcast used to be about you talking about video games and movies and that kind of stuff, but something that you've invested a lot of time in, or something that you just started last week, like, hey, I'm going to start doing this thing. What's something you've been really into?
I'm going to go out of left field here. You're not going to see it coming, but what I've been nerding out about lately, video games.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know if you guys knew this, and you definitely didn't know this, but I love video games.
Yeah. What is there like a one in particular, or you just been like getting new ones? And
When we last left off, 2 years ago, I think at that point the PlayStation 5 had just come out. And
I remember posting like pictures on what it might look like or what it will look like because it was close.
So it came out in 20, and it came out right around the time that we started the podcast. So I had to have had it, but I can't remember for sure what was discussed. Well, I had a Switch, I had a PlayStation 5, and I was like, all right, I'm set. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, if you even know this, I have an Xbox now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was so unnecessary, but and I'm so easily persuaded to a coworker of mine who I work with, he's not really like he plays mostly on PC. He's not really a console console. Still bothering.
Bringing it back.
Bringing it back. That mother. He's not really even like a dedicated system player, but with the thing he goes for is Halo. And one day at work, he's like, "Did you see the new Halo trailer?" I'm like, "Oh no, I haven't really been keeping up on it. I don't have an Xbox." And he's like, "You should check it out when you have a minute." And I booted. I lunch break comes and I put it on YouTube, and I'm like, "Well, all right, I guess I can get an Xbox."
Yeah.
And I did.
Oh my gosh! So it was just this guy saying, "Hey, check out the trailer to this video game," and it ended up you buying an Xbox.
Yeah, and I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, money, whatever. I don't need money.
Well, we talked because I was interested in buying a PlayStation or an Xbox, and at the time, you were like, "Well, good luck getting a PlayStation because you can't find them anywhere." I don't know if that's still the case. I would assume. But so we ended up getting an Xbox, and my son Mateo still plays a lot of his Switch because he likes playing Fortnite, and we couldn't get his account on the Xbox. Like I don't remember the passwords or anything for his account. My account, fine. I was able to switch my account over because I was already logged in. So like it remembered all my passwords, but I had no idea what his were. So he plays a lot on his Xbox or on his Switch. But what I do like is that we can play together now. So he'll be upstairs with his headset. I'll be downstairs on my headset, and we're playing Fortnite together, which is pretty cool. It's fun. I always wanted, like, when he was little, I was like, oh, I can't wait to play video games with him.
Right.
He does like to play Madden, which I do too, but he plays on the easiest setting. It is kind of boring, but he wants to see how many points we could score. So it's fun in that aspect. But
as he gets older, he'll start liking the more difficult stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. So you bought an Xbox. I'm assuming you bought Halo too, right?
Well, so one of the big selling points I do know we talked about this before with Xbox is that Game Pass Ultimate, and I don't know if you have it, but it gets you access to, hundreds of games that are just either they're Microsoft exclusives or, Microsoft has a ownership stake in them, or it's like Netflix, they come up to an agreement to license them temporarily and put them on the service. And you pay a monthly subscription, and then you get to play whatever you want, whenever you want. And the only limitation is how many of these games can you fit on your storage at one point in time. But that's what I've been doing. And that's already, I haven't bought a single game for the Xbox yet. And the way I was able to get it, because again, PlayStations and Xboxes are still really hard to come by unless you're sitting there watching the restock feeds and you pounce on one as soon as it becomes available. I did one of the options through like Best Buy, where you buy it and you pay for it for 2 years, and it's no interest or anything like that. So they give you the system for whatever you'd pay for it, and then 2 years of Game Pass for whatever you pay for it, and there's a small discount. So I was able to snag one of those, and I got that back in November or late October. You have to buy a single game for it, but I have put someone was just telling me a couple weeks ago, they're like, I think that says you've already put a week worth of time into Halo, and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense.
Is Halo like a Is it like Call of Duty and Fortnite where you're just fighting against each other people? Or is there like story stuff too?
No, there's a full campaign. There's a full campaign that it's a continuation of Halo 5. That's the last inline game. So there is a campaign there, but then the multiplayer side of it, which, by the way, even if you don't have Game Pass or Ultimate or anything like that, the Halo multiplayer is 100% free.
Oh, okay.
You can download it on your Xbox right now and play it for free. At least the multiplayer. You don't need to pay for a dime or pay a dime for anything.
Nice.
But that mode goes against other players, or you can party up with your friends and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I've been sinking a lot of time into that, and then just other miscellaneous things that just come with the bundle, and having a lot of good times with it.
Yeah, man, it's we had that bundle too, and I remember when we signed up for it, we had he had some gift cards that he got for Christmas, and and there was like a special or whatever. We ended up not having to pay for the Game Pass for like 6 months because of like all these other things, and it was just cool.
Microsoft just like throws it out like it's candy on Halloween. They're like, hey, you want there's 3 months for a penny. It's like, what? Like, logistically it makes no sense how they're able to do it. But they're not losing money. There was a report last month that there's 25 million consecutive monthly users on Game Pass Ultimate. Jeez. And even if like half of them are paying the actual full subscription price, which I'm sure at this point, everybody, so there's some people that have run out of going back to the well and getting their freebies or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's still over like almost 200 million in monthly revenue just in those subscribers. And it's only going to get bigger. I didn't make any notes. This isn't like a news recap episode like we used to do, but like, a little over a month ago, I don't know if you heard anything, Microsoft, and it actually came out that they were buying Activision.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Which they say that they're not going to make Call of Duty exclusive to the Xbox. I don't buy it. I still think they eventually will. But what it does mean is that on day one, all these Call of Duty games, which sell 10 to 20 million copies a year, is now going to be available for free as long as you're a subscriber. And like, that's going to go through the roof, man.
Well, yeah, and you don't even, and maybe that's why they say, hey, we're not going to make it exclusive, because if you can get it for free, or for the monthly subscription, then maybe that's what brings people over to buy an Xbox too.
Yeah,
everybody loves subscriptions.
Yeah. There's roughly, in the world, there's roughly like 25 to 30 million PS5s and Xbox Series systems out in the wild. They're pretty close, almost neck and neck. And that's not a whole lot in terms of how many they will sell over the next lifetime of the systems. So all Microsoft has to say is we don't have to like convince everybody to just jump ship on good faith. Now they'll want to go where they get the best value for their buck. Yeah. And that's if there's people that literally just buy these systems every year to play the new Call of Duty, which there's millions. Mm-hmm. There's millions of people that buy it from Madden and just Call of Duty or whatever it would be. Well, they've just secured a big corner of that market. Now someone says, okay, I can invest $500 and I never have to spend any more money except for a $10 monthly subscription.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper than the old school alternative.
This really gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside because it makes it feel like we're back.
Man, you could have just told me to do a patch, like, episode notes. It would have been like a notebook thick. What have we missed over the last 24 months?
So when you're not playing video games, you're busy arranging your figurines back there. Mm-hmm. And I do, and we've talked about it a lot in years past, but I do appreciate that you take them out of the box.
Oh, box collectors go to hell. You guys are no fun. And I know some of you all suck.
Do you keep the boxes or do you pitch them?
I did keep boxes for certain figures up until recently. When we moved to this house, which is now going on 2 years for this as well.
Yeah.
I had, I want to say like 4 or 5 boxes, like big moving boxes filled with smaller toy boxes. And I finally was like, well, my wife and I were finally like, enough is enough. You get rid of the boxes. And I've condensed it down to now one much smaller box of like, hey, these ones can't go because if for some reason we need to make the mortgage payment one month, these guys will pay for it or something. Yeah. But the rest of them are all burnt or recycled at this point. So
are you still actively like buying action figures and stuff?
It's slowed way down, but like now it's much more selective. Like I think since I've been in this house, I've added like 4 or 5 figures to the, maybe that might even be generous. Maybe it's been like 3 or 4 at most. But when something comes out that I like, I'll regret not having this, and that's what I kind of go for.
Is it something that you just want, or is it something that like, hey, people are looking for this one?
No, I never buy anything based off of like a popularity or a resale value. Unless it's like some stupid deal and some guy's in the back of a parking lot like, hey, he's got in his trench coat. He's like, you can make a fortune, and nah.
Well,
I buy the things that interest me.
Yeah, that's cool too, because that's another thing. Like if you're just buying these things and think like, oh, maybe they'll be worth some money, or you can buy these things and say, oh, they're cool, I like them.
Yeah. That's how it's always been. I collect things from the franchises that I like, so I've got like I've got the Ninja Turtle figures and stuff, and I've got a lot of horror movie action figures. There's stuff that just resonates with me that I'm still interested in, or that I grew up with, that like, it's not like I even come back. Like this is our as of right now, our spare bedroom.
Yeah.
And it's not like I come back here daily and I just stare at all of them or anything.
That'd be sweet if you did.
Honey, where are you going with the bottle of Jergens? Nowhere.
Oh gosh. Oh, no, that's going to be the clip I make into a TikTok.
No, damn it. But I don't just get to come back here and stare at things or, obsess about them. But like, we just had this conversation the other day we have Marilyn, that's our daughter. And we talk about having another, and it's like, well, what are we going to do if we have like a little boy? This is the 3rd bedroom of the house, and eventually if we had a boy, this would be his room. And she's like, well, we might have to just pack him away. I'm like, you don't think he'll like action figures? Like he's just born into this. Like I'd be.
Well, I was going to ask you about your daughter. Like she sees these toys, and like, is she allowed to play with them? Or do you have a bin of like, here's these other ones?
So there are there's ones that are on that she knows that she's probably shouldn't be touching. But if I'm around, we'll play. She can pick them up. I'm not like a super stickler about them. But like Ashley was just telling me, she was in here the other day, and I've got these Ghostbuster figures. They're re-releases of the ones that we had when we were kids. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
She sees those and she says, those are Daddy's Ghostbusters. I'm gonna play with them. And she totally can. Like, I don't care. I mean, yeah. I'd rather have that memory than of them just sitting there collecting dust. But I sort of leveled it out. Like when I was unpacking this room, she came in here and she was super interested in everything. So I found toys out of them. I'm like, okay, you have this one and play with this one when you're with Daddy. And I mean, they're all going to be hers someday. This is her inheritance. I ain't got no money, so this is what she's getting.
That's the same. That's what my dad says about. He's like, I'm not going to leave you any money, but you can have my 1994 GMC Sierra. So okay.
Right now, that's pretty valuable.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh man, I know somebody that.
That's cool to hear, though. That it is. I mean, because it is your stuff, right? But that's the same mindset as I have with my sports junk that I have. Right now a lot of it's in boxes, but there's all the shelf and stuff behind me. if they ever like want it or want to look at it, yeah, that's fine. You can look at it. It's a little different because they're not something you can. A lot of the stuff isn't something you can play with. You're just looking at it. But
Right.
there's some stuff that I have. I have some signed things. I have, I know you're not a huge sports guy, but Troy Aikman, the old quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, I have a signed helmet by him, and all the stuff. Like, I'm not going to sell it, but if they eventually they can have all the stuff, and if they want to throw it away or if they want to sell it or keep it, it's up to them. It's not, to me, it's not worth it. A lot of the stuff my dad gave me or my grandpa gave me, or people my family in Texas gave me some stuff, so it's just stuff for me to have and for them to look at.
I mean, you can't put I don't know, even if there was something that was super valuable, it's hard to put a monetary value on like your kids' even fleeting enjoyment with something, even like video games, like some people are like, oh, you can't let your toddlers play with your video game systems. It's like I was supposed to a couple weeks ago. I'm going to buy Marilyn a dedicated controller, so if she decides to turn on the Switch one day and she wants to play video games at 3 years old, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I don't want to share with her. I'd rather her enjoy it too and get something out of it.
Well, especially because you know how happy it makes you, and it made you when you were little, right? Like you grew up on this stuff. It's why would you want to not keep her from something that made you happy? And the same thing for us. Like we let Mateo play video games. Lillian plays some stuff, but a lot of times they're just playing together when she plays. But we let him play, and we just put a time limit on it. We just let him know, like on the Switch, you can put a timer on it, and when the timer's off, then you're done. And he's really good about that. But it'd be one thing if all he wanted to do was be inside and play video games, and but he's still outside running around. He's still playing with his friends, playing tag, playing football or whatever. So I like the balance of being able to do both of those things. Plus, the way he talks to his friends on his headset, dude. Oh my gosh!
It's like, does he develop like that new person, like that other personality, like when it's just him and the boys?
Completely. And the way that, oh my god, hey, there's kids over here, he's chucking nades, they're chucking nades, like, dude.
Have you seen the TikTok videos of the dude who's like, he's on his Xbox and he's like whispering and he's like, why do you guys always start without me? And then the mom comes and he's like, yes ma'am. Like he just turns into it. He's like, no, I did my homework. Like that's how every kid is, like when they get online with the boys.
Yep.
That's how, to be fair, that's how all adults are too. They're like, no, you go to bed, sweetie, I'm just gonna stay up and play a couple rounds of Call of Duty. And then you get on and you're like, what's up? I was about to say a bad word there.
Yeah. Is that the TikTok clip?
No, please don't.
There's so many TikTok clips already.
Oh,
I usually do one per episode, but I might have to do more.
Dude, you know what? We should do a podcast together. Oh man.
Oh gosh. I still have a gift for you in my garage.
Oh my god.
Next time you guys come out here for a Costco trip, you got to let me know, man. I'll meet you over there. Yeah.
This was like, I want to tell you what yours is.
I can tell you what yours is.
Oh,
I
don't know.
I feel like you don't have one for me.
No,
you're like looking around your room, like, okay, which one can I get?
I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay.
It's down there.
Oh, all right. Well, see, then we definitely need to exchange gifts. I even forget what was it like a Christmas thing or what? Why did we get gifts? Or was it because we were going to be podcasting for a year together or what? I don't even remember.
I think it was an anniversary gift.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
If I think so. Really quick, now that I don't know what time, now that we're 15 minutes into this or something already.
Yeah.
No,
it's like 20.
25,
yeah, something.
Am I supposed to look at you or me or the camera?
I always look at the person because it's impossible for me to have a conversation on Zoom and look directly into the camera or in the middle because I'm talking to somebody.
I feel like a psychopath if I do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So no, I had somebody who it's whatever, however their computer was set up, that the whole time I was talking to him, it was like this, like that's how they're looking, and then I was like, I don't know what's happening. But it was fine.
Are you still there?
No, it was good. It was good. It was a great interview, actually. So it didn't bother me. I didn't pay attention to it as much because of the content that was getting produced. Like, man, this is really good. So I don't care if you ever back to me. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's neither here nor there for this podcast, but we'll get together and exchange gifts because I think that'd be cool. So besides keeping your kid out of your toy room, no, I just play. When people, I do want to say it's always been fascinating to me, the idea of, and it sounds, I don't mean it this way, but the idea of a grown person be like collecting action figures, because I'm not trying to sound weird. It's just, there's no other way to say it. But it intrigues me because that's not something I was ever into. I was into it obviously when I was a kid because I played with them. I broke their legs off, whatever, threw them off the swing set, that kind of stuff. But when did it go from, hey, I'm going to play with these, to, hey, I like these and I'm going to put them on a shelf?
Somewhere in the like early to mid teens, because there was a definite disconnect there where, and I'm sure everyone has this at some point in time in some way, shape, or form, where it's that Christmas or that either Christmas or that particular birthday, and you're just filled with all sorts of weird teen angst and emotions and hair growing out of things you never thought it'd come from, and you open up that gift and it's like your mom or your dad is trying to keep you that young child. They're like, look at the toy we bought you, and I'm like, yeah, I wanted a girlfriend, and it's like and instead I got a PlayStation. No,
yeah,
not that.
Leonardo.
Leonardo, I have 4 of these. But I think there was some weird disconnect there in probably the 13 to 14 range, where I'm like, I feel ashamed to admit that this still interests me. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to stop picking them up to play with them. And then a few years goes by, and it really helped that my older brother is, if you think that it's interesting that I collect toys, yeah, this dude puts my collection to shame. It's impressive, and he stays really, really on top of the collecting game, actively, every week he's still doing it. When I was later in my teens and he was approaching his early 20s, mm-hmm, he was still, going out, and I'd see him and be like, it's cool. He's getting this stuff, and I'd go over to his apartment and he'd have it displayed. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I think I want to do, because I love all this stuff that I have just sitting there in a box, and I don't want to really hide it. But, I didn't think there was a middle ground between being a kid and playing in sitting on the ground in your underwear and playing with action figures. But there is. Now I can be an adult man sitting on the ground in my underwear, admiring my action figures.
When I asked that question, my first initial thought was, at some point you had to decide to buy your own, and then since you're using your own money, you're like, well, I don't want to damage them, or I don't want to break them. I'm gonna just stick them on the shelf. Also, were you always a, hey, I'm gonna take it out of the box guy?
I've never once bought something and said, I can't wait to leave this nice cardboard for the rest of my life.
Nice.
It's just such a.
It is a weird thing, man.
I think the real reason that the main draw to collecting stuff, and it just so happens to come around now that I'm 30 years old and have a sustainable income, 31, whatever, getting up there, man. You're what, 62 now at this point?
37.
Damn.
37.
I'm 37. Good. That's the reference, right?
I was referencing Clerks.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah. Okay. I understand what you were saying now. No, nobody wants to say the actual part.
Guys, go to YouTube and
Just type in Clerks 37.
I'm 37. But one of the main reasons, like, I'm an adult now, and one of the main draws to collecting for me is that when I was a kid, and my brother, the one that also still collects, we would buy lots and lots of Star Wars toys and anything that we could get our hands on in terms of the interests that we like. But at the time, that was so limited. Like, I think we had Ghostbusters. There was big phases in our life. Like, it was Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, and then Star Wars, and then wrestling action figures for a while there, GI Joes. But everything came in like phases. And we also had a lot of interests in like horror movies and just weird B movies like old science fiction, like Planet of the Apes. And they did make those toys for like Planet of the Apes back in like the 60s when the movies were relevant.
Yeah.
But that's not stuff that we could get our hands on in the mid 90s without going to auctions and paying a fortune. And now the cool thing is I'm an adult, and when I was a kid, all these toys that I wish I could have had, like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th or Ash Williams from Evil Dead, like these are toys I would have literally killed for as a child. And I have a shelf full of them now.
Nice.
Like these like the directors of these toy companies were younger then too and saw that this stuff wasn't being made, and now that they're directors of big toy companies, they can say, hey, we're going to make this. And
yeah,
I've got a bunch of Planet of the Apes toys that just, I mean, I never thought I'd have that when I was 6 years old, and just wishing I could find something at an auction that I didn't know existed.
Do you ever take your collection or show your parents, like, you never thought I'd make it, did you?
Well, look who's laughing now. Now leave. I've got a date with a bottle of Jergens.
Sponsor.
So have you ever wondered, a lotion company decides to name their lotion Jergen? Like, they know what they were up to.
It's gotta be, I mean, right? It's gotta be the name of whoever made the company, right?
Yeah, that guy that was always jerking it.
Oh my gosh. Here, I'll Google it right now. Why is Jergens bad? Oh, why is Jergens name Jergens? Let's see.
Why?
The surname Jergens is derived from the personal name. I want to say Jorge because I'm Mexican, but it's not. It's Jorge, but over the O, there's two little dots. So I don't know how you would pronounce that.
George. It's French. I think that's a French.
Well, it says they're both derived from the same root as the name George. Nice. I should have just kept reading. Which in turn comes from the Greek name Georgios, which means farmer. So the suffix son is so yeah. Anyway, North German and Dutch there.
George been jerking it in the closet, so he's gonna make his own lotion company.
Hey, companies have been founded on much weirder ways. Maybe, I don't know.
What would you have done if you'd clicked on the one that says "Why is Jergens bad?" and then just in big bold letters, "It'll make you go blind."
There was one. I mean, we don't have to spend all day talking about Jergens.
Did you think the reunion would be this way?
I had no idea what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be good, but that's about it. Okay. Can you? I am interested because we've talked a little bit about your job. And I know when you first started, you were going all over the country. Is that something you're still doing?
Yep. Yeah, that's it's largely stayed the same, just with more experience now, and I've gone through more training and more classes. I think I'm considerably more knowledgeable of the field now than I was 2 years ago.
Well, when you took the job, you had no knowledge, right? Like
yeah,
you didn't have to be proficient in this thing you're doing.
Well, so So just for reference, because I don't know if you even said it, I'm a service technician for Fanuc Robotics, and I know we've talked about it before on past episodes way back in the day, but for people who aren't familiar with what a Fanuc robot is, the easiest example I can give is if you watch Iron Man, there's these yellow robots that come in and take his armor off for him, and those are directly to mimic a Fanuc robot. They have separate moving arms and different joints and things like that.
Okay.
So no, a little over 2 years ago now, when I started, I had zero robot experience except for what a good friend of mine who works for the company had graciously explained prior to me getting in there, so that way I at least had somewhat of an understanding. I didn't have any experience other than I knew how to turn a wrench, and that's exactly what they were looking for, because my job largely was keeping these things up and running mechanically. And then as I got more and more advanced in that, I started taking on electrical and then other forms of troubleshooting. But largely my job title over the 2 years has stayed the same. I'm still a service technician. I still specialize just in the robots. It's just I'm considerably more knowledgeable now than I was then.
Do you feel whenever you go somewhere new, do you feel pretty confident you can fix the problem, or is there some problems you're like, hey, you just got to get a new one?
Actually, that was the biggest. That was one of our biggest defeats last year. I never had this. Now I have since realized, I think I know what the problem was, but there was a robot where someone went in, not someone with our company went in and serviced a robot. Customer called us back saying, hey, it's doing this weird thing it's not supposed to be doing. Can you guys come back in and look at it? I went back in and looked at it, and I gave it a diagnosis that fit the situation that was happening. And I said, yeah, we can fix this. Let's order parts and we'll come back in and you'll be down for 4 hours max. Mm-hmm. They ended up being down for a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
Before finally we said, hey, here's this robot's probably 16 years old at this point. They're like, hey, someone 2 hours away is selling a robot just like this for X amount of dollars, and we can have it here by Monday, and we'll put this one in place of that one. Yeah. Because we can't fix it. Mm-hmm. I went through every step in the book. I tried to think outside the box. We tried everything that we could try. I consulted with people that are much more experienced and knowledgeable than I am, and it still came down to it can't be fixed. Mm-hmm. And since then, I think I have determined what the issue was, and
the flux capacitor.
Exactly. Yeah. It just wasn't engaging. It was hard getting it up to 88 gigawatts. So it couldn't, go back in time. I just had this conversation. This morning about Back to the Future. I
feel like it was more.
It's way too fun. We cannot talk about it on this podcast, or you will lose all credibility.
I feel like it was more of a debate than a conversation.
Well, okay, so I can talk about part of it. In Back to the Future 1 and 2, when Marty goes back in time in the first one, mm-hmm. Do you have your phone pulled up? Do you have Google pulled up?
Yeah.
Google who played his dad. I think it was Christopher Glover.
Marty McFly's dad?
Yes.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover. That's it. So Crispin Glover actually only plays in the first Back to the Future movie. Okay. There was a big disagreement in terms of, I don't know, I think it was creativity reasons, and he doesn't come back. But if you are a fan of the Back to the Future movies, his character is in the second one. And what they did is they actually hired another actor, took a mold of Crispin Glover's face, made prosthetics of what Crispin Glover looked like, put them on this actor, and then continued to put new other makeup on top of him to age him as they would Crispin Glover. And that situation right there is already weird enough that like, oh, if you didn't realize this entire time, you're only looking at that dude in one movie, and then they're just fooling you for the other movies. But where things get really weird with Back to the Future is when Marty goes back to the Wild West, right? The person that plays his like great grandfather looks just like him, right?
Yeah.
It's played by Michael J. Fox. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Genetically speaking, we can say that, you know, it's worked out that way.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense is the person who plays his mother, or the great grandmother back then, is played by the same person who plays his mom in current day.
Yeah.
So are you saying that all the way back 100 years ago, prior to the first Back to the Future, there's just been a series of incestual breeding, and they've stayed like eventually, like I could have kind of been fooled to never think about this in my entire life if maybe Crispin Glover had just signed on to play the dad and they had gotten somebody else to play mom there. It doesn't make any damn sense. If we're meant to believe that this has really just been the McFly family tree, which is just a straight arrow pointing towards the heaven at this point, Marty McFly in the actual Back to the Future has 15 arms. He's as pale as snow, and you know his teeth are all fucking jagged like a shark.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. That's what keeps me up at night is Back to the Future 3. And they're
first of all, I loved all of that. Second,
okay.
Why were you having that conversation to begin with this morning?
We can't.
And who were you conversing with?
It was the guy that twisted the arm behind my back and made me buy an Xbox.
Okay.
That was the guy having the conversation. I think the reason it came up is he was on a job recently. He's a programmer, so he probably makes way more money than me, and handles different sorts of troubleshooting. So I asked, he went somewhere yesterday to fix a problem, and I asked him this morning, hey, what was the issue yesterday? And he said the flux capacitor was broken. And I was like, nice.
That's how it started. Okay.
Yeah. And then it went into way more nefarious things that we cannot discuss here.
Sure, that's fine.
The incestual breeding was the tame part of the conversation.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we need, you know what we need? We need a Patreon to this podcast where you can discuss.
That's a good. Pay $2 and hear the fucked up things Andy talks about at 7 a.m. Man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It would either be the greatest success ever, or you'd be pulled so quickly off Patreon for breaking so many user agreements.
I would have to guess the latter on that one.
I think you'd be betting fair there, man.
Okay, so are you? I'm assuming you're enjoying yourself somewhat in this job. Otherwise, you know, because it's a tough job. It's a tough job, tough gig, because you're flying around, being away from your family, and that kind of stuff. So it's also got to be something you like to do.
I think I'm fortunate because my trips are the guy I was just talking about. When he goes on trips for what his job duties in detail, I go on trips much more frequently than him.
Uh-huh.
But when he goes on trips, I'm gone for 2 to 4 days. Usually that's my range. And then every once in a while, jobs will get lumped together, and I'll be like, oh, you're gone for a week. And then you'll come back and you'll be home for a while, and then you'll go on another one. Which it's doable. It sucks. You know, I have a 3-year-old, she misses me, and it's hard saying goodnight through FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes on the road, he'll be gone for 4 weeks at a time.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes. A good friend of mine, Brennan, the guy that worked here that actually helped me get the job 2 years ago, he just got back today from a 3.5 week stay, and his wife is due with their second baby in like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So like I can't, it's rough on certain days that I'm gone for as long as I am. I can't imagine being like, all right, leaving a pregnant wife at home, and I'll be back hopefully in 3 weeks, you know, before the baby.
Especially in that zone where she could go to labor.
Oh yeah, it's the second kid too, you know, it's a ticking time bomb at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
That taking time out reminded me of when in The Office when Michael Scott was they're talking about cancer or whatever. He's like, you got to get those things checked. Those are taking time bags.
Was he talking about Meredith?
I think Pam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Scott. Did I ever tell you about our dishwasher magnet?
I don't think so.
So on the it's Michael Scott.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen these before?
I don't
They're
know.
double-sided. So it's a magnet to signify if the dishwasher, the contents are dirty or clean.
Okay.
And on one side, it's Michael doing like a typical like a Michael face with a thumbs up, and on the other side, it's Prison Mike.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I know the magnets you're talking about, but I've never seen the Office one. That's cool.
Yeah, my wife she ordered that, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. That's like right on the money. I'm Prison Mike, and that so dirty. It makes sense. Oh man, I'll still fight to the death about this though. Parks and Rec is a way better show.
I do like Parks and Rec. We actually debated, Andrew and I, we wanted to start a series that we watched before, and it was between Parks and Rec or New Girl. And we've watched Parks and Rec several times. So we haven't watched New Girl in a while. So now like I'm watching all these episodes and they're like new.
Really?
Yeah, like there is some things
New Girl.
It's new Girl. There is some things where I'm like, something I remember what's gonna happen. But for the most part, it's like watching all over again. And I mean it literally is, but like from not having seen it before, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I've watched Parks and Rec one too many times to where that will never happen again.
Yeah.
I think I've watched it like 4 times now. It's so good. It's not that it's not enjoyable, but I think like I've missed the cuff for that. Like you're always gonna remember this now.
Yeah. So because that's the best part of watching TV, right? Is not knowing what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I mean it is still enjoyable, you're right, but the surprise factor is gone a little bit, like, Andy fell down or Andy's in that tent or whatever.
But if like you think back to like some of the like, I'll use Friends as an example. Like I know it's not my favorite show of all time, but I've watched the Friends series through twice now because my wife and I enjoy watching it together. And I remember I knew how it turned out back from when it was on TV, and that that 70s show is a good one. They both pretty much have the same like ending, right? It's like Ross and Rachel or Eric and Donna. It's like, are they going to end up together? And it literally gets to the last episode and you have all these seasons of like trepidation and like ups and downs. And you're like, you don't have to deal with that anxiety anymore. You're like, it's season 4. They'll be back together in 2 years. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That's a good
this
point.
Girl does. Yeah. And that's another reason why I'm going to throw one more out there for Parks and Rec because it's such a good show. That's why I like Parks and Rec so much, because even if you were watching this show brand new and you have no idea what happens or who these characters are, it's such a low stress show. Like even the moments where like the characters like who like the Pam and Jims of their show, like who you want to end up, their cliffhangers in terms of will they get together or will they spend the next 3 seasons going back and forth, it's so much lower than like The Office even or anything else. And it's just like it's more happy than anything. It's a good pick-me-up show.
Because we've talked about this before where when there is negative stuff, it lasts an episode or half an episode, and by the end, you're laughing and something stupid's happening. So it does make you feel, like you said, that is a good way to describe it, as a low stress show, which you might not think that with a comedy, but they add all that other stuff in because you want to have the biggest audience you can. So let's have this budding romance that lasts for 3 seasons. You don't know if they're going to get together or not, but in Parks and Rec, it's like, no, there is this budding romance for people who want that. But also there's a 3-legged dog, so.
Yeah. Jim, guys, for spoiler warning, Jim and Pam aren't dating until season 4.
Isn't that crazy?
Like there are 7 good seasons of The Office, and 8 total, right?
I don't.
Or is it 9?
9, I think. Yeah.
But Michael leaves at 7.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, this is all spoiler. If you haven't watched it at this point, I don't care.
Don't listen. No, I'm kidding. Listen to every episode of this podcast.
But think about that. Like, by the time you're at season 4, you're already through half of the good part of the show. And like, there's still tons of great content to come after that. But it's like, man, you're just like on pins and needles for 4 seasons. And can you imagine watching this shit weekly? Like, I watched all of it on Netflix. You know, I can't imagine how people say it's like, can you imagine like season 2, like you're getting to like the casino episode when Jim's about to tell Pam, and it's that cliffhanger, and it's a 2-parter, and it's like, what the fuck happens? Well, another season and a half happens before this is resolved.
Buckle in.
Rashida Jones comes in and all kinds of weird shit.
Jim moves away.
Yeah, they play Call of Duty in the office.
A sniper.
Really, Jim? I'm gonna kill you for real.
You know, one show, and I talked about it a few episodes ago, but it's really good. I recommend everyone watch it. Murderville on Netflix.
I don't think I've heard of it,
dude. First of all, I know you have Netflix, so you need to watch Murderville. They're half-hour episodes. I recommend, if you have anything going on tonight, watch the first episode and text me tonight, because it is so good. The premise of it is Will Arnett plays a detective.
I'm sold. It's Will Arnett.
He plays the detective, and every episode, there's 6 episodes. Every episode, his new partner is, the first episode, it's Conan O'Brien. He plays all the guest stars play themselves.
Really?
But the premise of the episode is it's all scripted, except for the guest star has no idea what's happening. So it's a lot of improv. They're just going with the flow, and then at the end, the guest star has to try to figure out who committed the murder. And it is so good. Andrea is not a laugher, like an audible laugher. I've never heard her. I never heard her laugh so much watching a TV show. Murderville.
I'm really. You said Will Arnett, and then you said like Conan O'Brien, and I'm already sold. It sounds sounds perfect.
The second episode was good. Do you know who? This reminds me of our old podcast. But do you know who Marshawn Lynch is? This is so good.
He's a
yep.
Hold on.
Yep.
Marshawn Lynch. He was a general in the Confederacy, famous for his. He's a football player, right?
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I don't know who for though.
He's the in the second one, and I liked his one.
The Boston Eagles.
Right? You close. It was a bird. It's the Seattle Seahawks. So wrong coast. Wrong coast. Kind of the right animal. But yeah, it's good. So check it out, please.
Every Eagle everywhere right now is like, that motherfucker just compared me to a Seahawk.
A glorified seagull? Get out of here.
I am the national bird, god damn it. And all the Cardinals in Ohio are like, at least you get recognition.
What's up? Hey, they're around here all seasons. One of my jobs that I started doing at my work is feeding the birds. We have bird feeders we have this thing called the window of wildlife. People go it's all windows, and there's a bunch of bird feeders. There's a water feature out there, a little pond, and we have a microphone so people can hear the birds, hear the water, and just be in there and look out. So that is, man, in the winter, those male cardinals stand out so much. And I mean, and birds are birds. You just think about it, whatever. But when you're just sitting in there watching them, any kind of bird, you're like, man, that bird's pretty cool.
You're like, damn, that bird's hot. Look at the feathers on that.
What up, bird? He must work out.
It still blows my mind, like being told that like simple, like, hey, if the bird is like super colorful and like flame, like, just,
Putting on a show.
putting on a show and just presentable, like that's the male. I'm like, say what?
Yeah, it is
Like,
crazy.
we don't take care of ourselves as male humans. Like, no one's ever going to be like, who is the one in the sequins with the beautiful makeup? It's like, oh, that's Roy.
I mean, I hate having to shave. How often do you
Yeah.
shave your head?
Probably twice a week.
Yeah, me too. It's such a pain. I don't know.
If
I mean, it doesn't. It takes me like 5 minutes because I just do it in the shower. I used to do it with a years ago. We got Mateo a little Ninja Turtle shaving kit that came with a mirror. So there's a tiny little mirror, like 2x2, that I would use to shave
for years. And this was before I was even bald. Because when I still had long hair, I would cut. The sides of my hair were shorter than like what was up here, and I would trim that by myself, and I trimmed the back of my neck. And I actually had this makeup compact that was probably about this big, and the mirror was cracked, and it wasn't even seated right anymore. And she's like, we need to throw this away. I'm like, I use that when I shave the back of my neck. You can't throw that away.
like, well, we can buy a new one.
Now, like, she ordered some like a Jeffree Star mirror or something like that. I'm like, well, that's mine now because I use it to shave my head. So
our little Ninja Turtle one broke, and I'm like, well, great, how am I going to shave my head? Andrew's like, buy a new mirror. She goes, I'll get it right now on Amazon. Like, all right, good call.
But not you get like a much better mirror, and it's bigger, and you just don't know what to do with all the space, and you're like, you're used to so little, and then you get handed the world, and you're like, I don't like it.
I can see too good. Get me out of here. Oh man. All right. Can you we gotta wrap it up. I gotta put my kids to bed. Dude, so much fun. This makes me wish we could do it all the time. Please promise you'll come back on at some point when we're just goofing off. If you got if you know what would be this would be perfect. Every once in a while you're like, ooh, that would be good for a podcast, and just jot a little note down. And then you can bring your thick notebook. We'll just talk about nerd stuff, man. Because it truly was one I've been looking forward to for a long time. Because it's like I said at the beginning, it was one of my favorite things that I ever started, and I'm glad I started with you. Because just like people, if you listen to this whole thing, you understand why we had so much fun.
I feel like there was like a level of trepidation when it came to how like an all digital version of this was going to go, because I was so used to like the idea of us doing it the old school way prior to the pandemic and everything, of just getting together and doing a podcast the way you would traditionally see it. It worked so well though. I think I mean, I don't know how the quality is going to turn out. That never matters anyway. This is all about my enjoyment right now.
Yes.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. And even like on days where I'm traveling, I'm sure we can, like, if I was in a hotel tonight, which was the original plan for this week, we were still going to do this podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
you know what would be cool? Because I am trying to get like, not necessarily like new podcasts, but like different reoccurring segments on this. Like me and my friends who are, we're all dads, but we're all different. So it's called right now. We're workshopping a title, but I think we're gonna go with 3 different dads. I have the oldest kids, a boy and a girl. My friend who lives in Texas has 2 girls, and then the other guy that's on there has 1 girl, and he's divorced, so he's co-parenting. So we're all a little bit different, have different aspects, and we learn different things. Are you frozen? Oh, I thought you were not moving. I thought you were frozen. But so once a month, the last Sunday of every month, we're going to get together and just talk about parenting and dad stuff, make jokes by each other, that kind of stuff. So even if it's something we can turn into like, hey, this week is our check-in with Andy, and we're going to talk about, whatever we talk about. But at the very least, it's something that we really enjoy. And that's what we said at the beginning of our podcast. Like, yeah, do we want people to listen? Sure. But we have a lot of fun doing it. So it doesn't really matter.
It's if someone gets a chuckle out of us recording and sharing this conversation, that's pretty much the end game there.
Yeah, man.
As far as your dad podcast goes, and I know you have to put your kids to bed, but you know what? They get you every day. So
yeah, we're good.
I feel like there's an untapped joke there. Like you said, have you ever seen Three Men and a Baby?
I have, yes.
What about like Three Dads and Babbling or something like that? Like babbling, like they're talking. Like we got to think about something here.
Yeah,
I have no affiliation with this podcast, but I want to name it.
Well, workshop it. Text me while you're watching after you watch Murderville, and because we're still like, I don't know, it's not its own thing right now. You know, it's just on this feed, and it's just me and my friends that one lives in Texas, and we don't get to see him very often. You know, so it's one of those kind of like keep in touch kind of things too. So
awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'll see what I can come up with. You know, I as one half of the creator of this show.
Yes, always and forever. I mean, I've made many a post where I tag you in it because, again, I'll say it wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for the confidence we had in each other to be like, yeah, let's do this thing, man. So
if I'm not wrong, I think I'm still a moderator on the Facebook.
Probably,
and I'm afraid to do anything because like I'll get notifications. It's like you have new notifications, and I'm like, no, I don't. That's not me. I'm like, I don't want to touch it because that's Lorenzo.
I could take you off to relieve some anxiety
if you would like to.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that
because as of right now, I was like, I'm like, he's not going to see that notifications because I opened it. What happens here? Oh man. By the way, someone named Joe Biden messaged and said they want to come on the podcast. I told him, get in line, buddy. Our reunion show coming up.
Get in line.
Loser. All right, man.
All right. Well, thanks again, Andy. For it seems I always like calling you Andrew. But you signed on as Andy. I don't know.
You're the only one that's ever respected my decision to call me Andrew. Everyone else was always like, you put it on your name tag and they're like, Andrew? Andy's okay, right? I'm like, no, Andrew's fine. And they're like, all right, Andy, come this way.
All right, Andrew. Well, thanks again for coming on. We'll be in touch, man.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay. I think the
Boomer sooner.
So we're cracking up because I missed it and I had to come back on. So now it doesn't even, there's no flow at all whatsoever.
Well, it's okay, dude. You haven't done this podcast in almost 2 years. You're out of the loop.
Yeah.
Does no one else sign off with the boom? Do you ever do the Boomer sooner?
No, man. It left with you.
What?
Yeah, that was you, man.
What happened?
Nothing.
You're off the screen.
Oh, I don't know. I can still hear you. And I can see you too. So, no, man. We haven't done it in a while. So, no, just say goodbye.
All right, man.
All right. See ya.
Take it easy.
Thanks, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're hearing this on any of the podcatchers. On YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're coming at you 2 times a week now, audio and video. Check us out on all the social medias. Just search the Nerdball Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're out there. Gmail is the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to shoot us an email, we'd be happy to get back to you. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.